The silent return. The cold silence of space was broken by the sudden appearance of a massive fleet. Hundreds of ships emerged from the darkness, forming a wall at the edge of the solar system. They came without warning, without communication. Earth's defense satellites detected the unknown fleet immediately. Alarms rang across military bases. On Earth, in orbit, and on the Moon, officers rushed to their stations. The United Human Federation's High Command received the alert within seconds. Unknown fleet detected at the edge of the system. No response to hails. No identification codes. General Marcus Hayes, the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stood in the war room, staring at the holographic map. The fleet was unlike anything they had ever seen. Their design was strange, advanced, yet familiar. "Where did they come from?" he asked. The radar officer shook his head. "Nowhere, sir. No warp signatures, no approach detected. They just appeared." A chill ran through the room. That was impossible. No species in the galaxy could move an entire fleet undetected, not even the most powerful alien civilizations. The president of Earth, Eleanor Reed, was patched into the war room from her emergency bunker. Her voice was calm but firm. "Open all channels. Try to communicate." The radio operator sent message after message in every known language, every frequency. No response. Minutes passed, then an hour. The fleet remained motionless, just beyond the asteroid belt, watching. Across Earth, panic spread. People flooded the streets, staring at the sky, waiting for an announcement. News channels switched to emergency broadcasts. Is this an alien invasion? Experts debated. Some said it was a new alien empire. Others believed it was a rogue AI force. Then, suddenly, the fleet moved. Slowly, methodically, the ships advanced toward Earth. Earth's defense systems locked onto them, missiles ready, but no attack came. The enemy ships did not fire. They did not change course. They just kept coming. Inside the war room, tension rose. "Should we engage?" Admiral Patel asked. The president hesitated. "Not yet. We don't fire unless they do." Then, without warning, the unknown fleet broadcasted a single message. A deep, distorted voice filled every screen, every radio, every communication device across the solar system. "We are the children of Earth. Abandoned. Forgotten. We have returned." The words sent a shockwave through the war room. "Children of Earth," General Hayes whispered. Across the planet, confusion turned to fear. People scrambled to understand. How could they be human? No records existed of any human fleet beyond Earth's colonies. Then, before anyone could react, the fleet vanished from all radars. One moment, the ships were there. The next, they were gone. The war room erupted in chaos. "What just happened?" "Sir, we've lost them. They just disappeared." The president clenched her fists. "Find them. Now." For the first time in centuries, Earth faced an enemy they didn't understand. A ghost from their past had returned, and they were not here as friends. The silent return had begun. The forgotten past. The halls of the Earth Historical Archives were silent, except for the hurried footsteps of Dr. Evelyn Carter. The old historian had been awakened in the middle of the night by an urgent message. Find out who they are. The mysterious fleet's message still echoed in her mind. "We are the children of Earth, abandoned, forgotten. We have returned." She arrived at the secured database chamber, her fingers shaking as she entered her clearance codes. The doors slid open, revealing rows of glowing data terminals filled with centuries of history. She whispered to herself, "Lost children of Earth, but we never abandoned anyone, did we?" She began searching records of deep space missions from centuries ago, scrolling through old classified files, colony expeditions, and forgotten projects. Hours passed. Then, she found something. Eden's Promise. A shiver ran down her spine as she clicked the file. The holographic screen displayed a long-lost mission from nearly 300 years ago, a deep space colonization ship sent to establish a new world beyond known space. Status: mission failed. Colony ship lost. All hands presumed dead. Her heart pounded. She quickly scrolled through the details. Eden's promise had vanished shortly after entering an uncharted sector. No distress signals had ever been received. No rescue attempts made. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, horrified. They weren't lost. They were forgotten. Meanwhile, in Earth's war room, President Eleanor Reed stared at the frozen radar screens. The enemy fleet had disappeared without a trace. How did they vanish? She asked. Admiral Patel shook his head. We don't know. Their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen. General Hayes paced the room. If they really are human, where have they been all this time? How did they survive? A priority alert flashed on the main screen. Dr. Evelyn Carter, urgent message. The president answered, and Evelyn's face appeared, pale and trembling. Madam President, I know who they are. Silence fell in the room. They're the descendants of the Eden's Promise expedition, Evelyn said. We sent them into the void, and we never looked back. The weight of those words hung over them. But that was centuries ago, General Hayes argued. How did they survive? How did they build an entire fleet? Evelyn's voice was grim. I don't know, but I do know one thing. They haven't come back as our allies. The president exhaled, steeling herself. Then we need to be ready. At that moment, the lights flickered. A chilling silence filled the war room. Then the security alarms blared. Earth's defense network was going offline, one system at a time. It wasn't an attack from the outside. Someone was already inside. A message of fire. The skies over Earth burned. It started with a whisper. One by one, satellites went dark. Communications blacked out. Defense grids failed. No alarms sounded, no warnings flashed. By the time anyone noticed, it was too late. And then the first explosion came. Above Earth, Orbital Station Genesis, one of humanity's strongest space defense platforms, was reduced to flaming debris in a single precise strike. There were no energy signatures, no detected missiles. One moment, it was there. The next, it was a field of floating wreckage. On the ground, chaos erupted. Civilians flooded the streets, staring at the falling streaks of fire in the sky. The news networks, still trying to explain the unknown fleet, now struggled to report on the attack. Inside Earth's war room, General Marcus Hayes slammed his fists on the table. Where the hell did that shot come from? His officers scrambled, desperate to find an answer. No enemy ships detected within range, sir. It's like the shot came from nowhere. Then, every screen flickered to static. The lights dimmed. A sharp electric hum filled the air. And a voice, a deep, unrelenting voice, spoke across every device on Earth. You left us to die in the void. Now we decide who lives. The words sent ice through the spines of every leader, every soldier, every citizen. The screens flickered again, showing something worse than static. Images of abandoned colonies, ruined cities, shattered ships drifting in space. These are the worlds we built, the voice continued. Worlds we were forced to create because Earth turned its back on us. No rescue ships came. No messages were answered. You condemned us to suffer. President Eleanor Reed's face was pale. They think we betrayed them. General Hayes clenched his jaw. They don't just think it, Madam President. They believe it. Another explosion rocked the orbital grid. More stations fell. Earth's greatest enemy had not come from the stars. It had come from within their own bloodline. The lost children of Earth were no longer asking for justice. They were here for vengeance. The invasion begins. The sky turned red. Across Earth, the sun was blotted out by thousands of descending ships. No warning, no mercy. The lost children of Earth had come home. At first, the people of Earth thought it was another scare tactic, another display of power like the orbital attacks. But then, the first city fell. It happened without a single shot fired. Total domination. In New London, the power grid failed. Military bases went silent. Defense drones fell from the sky. The enemy wasn't fighting with brute force. They were taking control. In Tokyo, soldiers rushed to their battle stations, but their weapons refused to fire. Their own security systems had locked them out. In Washington, D.C., the president was evacuated to a secret bunker, only to find it already compromised. Their escape had been predicted, their codes already cracked. They're not attacking, General Hayes realized. His voice was barely above a whisper. They're hijacking everything. The enemy fleet had spent centuries evolving, advancing. They knew Earth's technology, its defenses, its weaknesses, because Earth had built them. The children of Eden's promise had returned, and they were claiming Earth as their own. A war without a battlefield, cities fell without a fight. Ships in orbit refused to launch. Nuclear weapons were locked down. The AI systems designed to protect Earth had been rewritten. And now, they served the invaders. They've already won, whispered Admiral Patel, watching as more cities lost power. We don't even have a chance to fight back. But then, the first explosion shook the ground. The resistance ignites. In the ruins of an old underground military bunker, deep beneath the sands of the Sahara, a rogue human fleet was waiting. These were the soldiers who never trusted the government. The ones who had always believed Earth's leaders were hiding something. The ones who had spent their lives preparing for an enemy they couldn't name. Now they had a name. They had a target. And they had a choice. Surrender Earth or fight for it. General Hayes clenched his fists. His voice was steady as he gave the order. Activate all remaining forces. We take our world back. The war had truly begun. The truth revealed. The war was already lost. Earth's cities lay silent, their power grids hijacked. The skies, once filled with human ships, belonged to the invaders now. The lost children of Earth had not just returned. They had claimed their birthright. But why? That was the question no one could answer. General Marcus Hayes stood in the shadows of a ruined command center, his bloodied hands gripping the edge of a shattered table. Reports came in. More bases lost, more weapons locked down, more soldiers surrendering without ever firing a shot. Earth wasn't being conquered, it was being taken back. And then the first prisoner arrived, face to face with the enemy. They'd brought him in under heavy guard. Though the soldiers knew their weapons could be disabled in an instant, the man stood tall, wearing the uniform unlike anything Earth had ever seen. His eyes were the only thing familiar, sharp, intelligent, filled with something darker than hate. Recognition. My name is General Kell of the Revenant Fleet, the prisoner said. His voice was calm, controlled. I believe you've been looking for me. President Eleanor Reed, standing beside General Hayes, narrowed her eyes. You claim to be one of us. Prove it. Cale smirked. That's the problem. You don't remember us, but we remember you. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a small device. A hologram filled the air. Earth, as seen from space, centuries ago. Then the image changed. A distress call. A desperate message sent from the deep void of space. A colony ship, Eden's Promise, calling for help. The message was never answered. Earth had left them to die. The sin of the past. We called for you, Cale said, his voice colder now. We were stranded. We had no supplies, no reinforcements, no way back. He took a step forward, his piercing gaze locked onto the president. And do you know what happened next? He whispered. Silence. No one dared to answer. Cale continued. We learned that the galaxy does not forgive the weak. That survival means taking, not asking. That we could become something greater than the humans who abandoned us. The hologram shifted again, now showing war, bloodshed, entire alien civilizations crushed under the fleet's power. They had not just survived. They had thrived. "You speak of justice," President Reed said, her voice low. "But this isn't justice. This is revenge." Cal's smirk returned. "Maybe. Or maybe it's something else." He leaned forward. "Maybe it's a warning." The room tensed. The final demand. Cal raised his chin, unshaken. "You have a choice," he said. "Submit, and Earth will become part of something greater, a new order, a stronger humanity." He paused. "Resist, and we will erase you from history, just as you erased us." The screens flickered. A countdown appeared. 1 hour. The world had one last chance. Would Earth bow, or would it burn? The final battle. The countdown had begun. Earth had 1 hour to surrender or be erased. From the war room deep beneath the ruins of Washington, D.C., President Eleanor Reed and General Marcus Hayes stared at the flickering screens. Every satellite, every defense station, every military base was under enemy control. The lost children of Earth had won. Except humanity wasn't finished yet. The last hope. In the darkness of space, beyond the moon's shadow, a hidden fleet waited. They were not soldiers of Earth's government. They were outcasts, defectors, and rebels who had never trusted those in power. They had spent decades preparing for the day Earth would be betrayed, not by aliens, but by its own forgotten children. And now, that day had come. The leader of the rogue fleet, Admiral Jonas Rourke, opened a secure channel. His grizzled face appeared on the last functional screen in Earth's war room. "Madam President," he said, his voice steady, "we're launching now. The war begins." The first attack came like a ghost. A single EMP blast erupted from Earth's surface, fired from an ancient military base buried beneath the Arctic ice. For the first time, the invaders' fleet flickered. Their perfect control over Earth's systems faltered, just for a moment. But a moment was enough. From the moon's dark side, the hidden fleet surged forward, a desperate force of old warships, experimental fighters, and pilots who had nothing left to lose. They tore into the enemy fleet, striking hard before the invaders could recover. Missiles streaked through space. Railguns roared. General Cal, aboard the enemy flagship, narrowed his eyes. "This wasn't supposed to happen. These fools still think they have a chance," he muttered. The betrayal within. But Earth's forces weren't the only ones questioning the battle. Inside the Revenant fleet, whispers had begun. Soldiers, humans, just like those on Earth, hesitated. They had been raised to believe Earth was weak, that it had abandoned them, that it deserved to fall. But now, they saw something else. They saw Earth fighting back, not just with weapons, but with defiance, with the unbreakable will that had once sent their ancestors to the stars. Some of them began to wonder, had they become the villains? And then, the first Revenant ship switched sides. The turning point. Admiral Rourke's fleet was outnumbered, outgunned, but now, they had allies among the enemy ranks. The battle exploded into chaos. Earth's forces pushed forward. Cities beneath the conflict erupted with rebellion. Civilians who had lost hope now took up arms, striking at the invaders wherever they could. The balance shifted. General Cal's face twisted with rage. This was not how it was supposed to end. The last stand. Inside Earth's war room, President Reed stood tall. "Open a channel," she ordered. Seconds later, Cal's face appeared before her. "You were never going to win," he spat. "Even if you fight us off today, we'll come back. Stronger, smarter. You can't undo history." Reed's expression was cold. "No," she said, "but we can decide what happens next." Outside, the battle raged. Ships burned. Soldiers fell. But for the first time in history, Earth had a real chance. And the war was about to change forever. The choice. The war had reached its breaking point. Above Earth, the sky was a graveyard of burning ships. Wreckage drifted through space, the remains of both Earth's defenders and the invaders who had once called themselves humanity's lost children. But now, the battle was no longer about ships or weapons. It was about a single choice. The enemy at the gates. Inside the Revenant fleet's flagship, General Kale stood at the center of the command bridge. His hands trembled as he gripped the edges of the war table, watching the battle unfold. The war had been theirs to win. Earth should have fallen by now. But it hadn't. Something had changed. His own people had turned against him. Revenant ships, once loyal to their cause, had begun fighting alongside Earth's last defenders. Entire battalions refused to follow his orders. Some surrendered. Others simply shut down their weapons. They had seen Earth's defiance, and they had remembered what it meant to be human. Cal's face twisted with rage. "We came here to make them suffer," he growled. "And now you hesitate." One of his commanders, once a hardened warrior, now filled with doubt, met his gaze. "We came for justice," she said, "but all I see is vengeance." The final stand. On Earth, inside the war room, President Eleanor Reed watched as the balance shifted. The battle was no longer a war. It was a rebellion within the invaders' own ranks. Her chance had come. She opened a channel directly to General Kale's flagship. His furious face filled the screen. "Are you here to beg for mercy?" He spat. Reed's expression was unreadable. "No," she said. "I'm here to give you a choice." Kale narrowed his eyes. "End this war," she continued. "Your people don't want this anymore. And neither do mine." Kale scoffed. "You think you can just talk your way out of this?" Reed leaned forward. "No, I think your own people already made the choice for you." The war room screens flashed with live data. More Revenant ships switching sides, their weapons shutting down, their commanders refusing to fire. Cal's command bridge fell into silence. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something alien, something unfamiliar. Doubt. The choice that defined humanity. The war could end now, or it could burn until nothing was left. Cal exhaled. The weight of centuries of anger, of betrayal, pressed down on him. And then, he issued the order. "All Revenant forces," Cal said, his voice heavy. "Stand down." The war was over. A new beginning. As the last ships powered down, Earth's battered forces looked to the skies. They had survived. Again. But survival was not the same as victory. The scars of this war would last for generations. Trust would take years, maybe centuries, to rebuild. But for the first time in history, humanity was truly whole. Not just Earth, not just the lost children, but one species standing together, and the future was theirs to claim.